Coming up next on SportsCenter, Rocket Roger and the Boston Red Sox together again. Clemens ends his holdout. We'll have another live report from Las Vegas as Monday's Hagler-Leonard fight nears. And third-round play from the Nabisco Dinah Shore Golf Tournament. All this and more ahead on the ESPN SportsCenter. Hello again, everyone, and welcome once again to the ESPN SportsCenter. John Saunders along with Chris Berman, and they are rejoicing in Boston. Their man is back.
Yeah, and it's about time. I mean, we went right down to the wire. They certainly did, John. At least one of last year's all-star starters will be in uniform on opening day for baseball. Roger Clemens and the Boston Red Sox have rejoined forces as the AL MVP and Cy Young Award winner ended his 29-day walkout over a serious salary rift. George Grant has the details from Winter Haven, Florida.
Haywood Sullivan, the president of the Red Sox, announced on Saturday that Roger Clemens and the team had reached an agreement whereby Clemens would return to the Red Sox while details of a brand-new contract would be worked out.
Commissioner played a part. I'm not going to say he beat up on anybody. He played a part in this because it was in the best interest not only of the Red Sox, but the player, but the game itself, to get the person back into camp and to keep this renewal process that's been agreed upon in negotiations intact.
We feel we've got the basis of a contract pretty well. The perimeter's drawn up. Just got to work out the details and pound away at it, but we think we can get it done. And Roger agreed to come back into camp and join the club and be ready to pitch.
How soon do you think you can be back ready to go with a start?
Well, I think that it might take me one or two starts. You know, I'll get my lumps here or there, but the main thing is this, I'm just going to have to concentrate extremely hard, and so I don't make too many mistakes, like getting the ball up in the strike zone or things like that. Getting the ball where I want, you know, ball inside and outside. But I think that if I concentrate hard enough, just let my ability take over, I can do those things and be successful. But I want to play in Boston. I want to play in front of those fans that are so knowledgeable of the game and enjoy it so much when they come to the ballpark, because I like that. And I hope they like what I go out there and try and do for them. And that's another reason why I'm back here. And Haywood knows that, because I'm going to try and do for him what I've always done. That's go out there and be consistent and win. And that's the bottom line.
It's good to see you back in camp, Rocket.
Thanks, George.
Roger Clemens, who here at Winter Haven, Florida, has rejoined the Red Sox on Saturday. He will go north with the club to Milwaukee for the season opener, and then from there, it's just a question of when he's back 100%. At spring training with the Red Sox, George Grant, ESPN.
All right, George, thank you very much. Clemens immediately went to work today, pitching for the Red Sox minor leaguers against Harvard, and he turned up the heat against the poor Ivy Leaguers today, working 6 hitless innings and striking out 10, getting 6 infield groundouts. He walked 2, but one man was caught stealing. The other was picked off, so Clemens faced the minimum 18 batters. Obviously, he wasn't kidding when he said that he was working out every day during his holdout. Clemens working today in Florida for the Red Sox minor leaguers. And yes, it was only against Harvard, but Clemens looked like he is ready to go to work up north. So while Clemens returns, the Sox found out today that they will miss Dennis Oil Can Boyd for their opening series with Detroit. The Can has a sore right shoulder. We will have more baseball later in the SportsCenter.
Interesting to see just how effective he will be. Now, it is being billed as the greatest fight of all time. That may be debatable, but what isn't is the fact that the marvelous Marvin Hagler Sugar Ray Leonard fight is drawing more attention than any fight in history.
The fight, of course, just a couple of days away. Our Gail Gardner has a jump on all the action and joins us now live from Las Vegas. Hello, Gail.
Hello, Chris and John. Nice to be here on a sunny day at Caesars Palace in Las Vegas, as opposed to the kind of weather we had yesterday. You know, this is a tremendous sports weekend here at Caesars Palace. Last night, of course, the 7th anniversary show of Top Rank Boxing on ESPN. Today, former welterweight champ Donald Curry in action in the USBA junior middleweight title fight. And, of course, the main event of the weekend tomorrow night between marvelous Marvin Hagler and Sugar Ray Leonard, the fight that everyone is looking forward to. Now, the feeling is that this will pretty much very probably be the biggest single payday in sports history, the biggest single money-making venture in the history of sports. And to take a little bit of a closer look at that, our Jim Gray takes a look at the possible monetary implications.
Destiny in the Desert, an event so dynamic that it won't even matter whether or not the bout is a gem. The event will be a financial success like nothing before. It will be seen in 75 countries with close to 500 million people watching. If it all sounds so outrageous, well then blame it on Vegas, where the impossible is a common occurrence. For instance, more than $100 million will be spent in Las Vegas during the next 3 days, $50 million of which will be wagered on the fight alone.
And everybody wants to see this fight. It's been like if you were cooking soup and it's just been boiling and boiling and cooking and cooking, simmering and simmering, and now it gets to the point where it's going to explode. I would say this is probably the biggest fight so far.
There are only 15,300 seats for the fight, but more than 100,000 are booked to come to town to see what's going on. If they're lucky, they'll be able to catch a glimpse of a galaxy of stars, all of whom are descending upon Vegas for the fight. If you're a VIP, a luxury suite similar to this one here at Caesars is where you'll stay. It goes for a cool $950 a night. And folks, if you want one, you'll join a list which includes the likes of Tom Selleck, Bo Derek, the Pointer Sisters, and Jack Nicholson.
This is like the Academy Awards of boxing at Caesars. I mean, everyone's here. There isn't anyone. I think there's 2 people that didn't show up. That's about it.
Which 2?
We can't mention their names. 2 guys that lost the last fight, probably.
And Las Vegas is prepared, for in this time period, more food and alcohol will be consumed than at any other time this year. It seems as though fight fans have big appetites. We won't know until late Monday night who will be victorious in the main event, but the biggest winner has already been determined, and it's Las Vegas by a unanimous decision. Jim Gray, ESPN, Las Vegas.
Thank you, Jim. Hagler, Leonard, Monday night. With me now, the promoter of this fight, the chairman of the board of Top Rank Inc., Bob Arum. And Bob, can you give us really a good idea of the kind of money we're talking about for this fight?
Well, you know, all the fans out there are intrigued with this fight. And the money is generated by people all over the United States and Canada, all over the world, generating interest in the fight and coming out and watching it on big screen television. We are estimating that our gross revenue will be approximately $100 million. What it ultimately turns out to be will depend on the fans out there and just how interested they are in seeing what I believe to be one of the great sporting events of our time. You know, people say, why pay money to see something up on a big screen? And I would answer that is that if you see it and you see it happening live, happening at that very time, it's memories that you keep with you forever. I mean, I know all the people that watched the Hagler-Hearns fight, and 6 months later, a year later, they relive that fight in their mind. There's something about that magic moment when 2 legends meet in a ring that really is what this is all about, why there's so many television crews here, and Gail, why you're here.
This is true. How do you go about, I think that people are interested in trying to understand how are decisions made about just how much money Hagler is going to make, just how much money Leonard is going to make. And the question with Leonard this time around is why the acceptance of the flat fee, the upfront $11 million, and not part of the gross receipts?
Well, first you have to realize, Gail, is that these 2 purses are the biggest purses by far ever paid in boxing history. Now, originally, my idea was to try to pay the fighters less and have them work on a percentage participation. That way, nobody really gets hurt. The Leonard people refused to do that, and they insisted on a flat amount, $11 million, which, again, would be the highest purse ever paid in boxing history. We consented to that, and then, of course, Marvin Hagler, whose night this is going to be on Monday night, Marvin Hagler said to me, you're my promoter. Under no circumstances could I ever make less than Ray Leonard, and therefore you have to guarantee me $12 million. But Marvin Hagler and his people are also operating on a percentage so that if the event hits the numbers that we believe, Marvin Hagler will probably make more money or as much money in his percentage participation as the $12 million. But that's really the genesis of it. These 2 purses are incredibly large. But when we realized that this was the only way, without a lot more haggling, to get the 2 fighters together, we then canvassed our exhibitors, our closed-circuit exhibitors, who are putting up enormous amounts of money to, in effect, fund these guarantees. This is not Bob Arum from the top-ranked boxing checks from Bill Grimes at ESPN, writing out a check for $23 million. This is a lot of people putting up guarantees.
Sure, because they believe that it's going to be as big as everyone seems to think that it will be. Okay, Monday night, the big night. We look forward to it. We'd like to remind you we have a special coming your way Sunday night at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Time, a complete look at the fight. We will also be back tonight on our later edition of SportsCenter with one of the truly legendary sports writers in this country, Jim Murray of the LA Times. Let's go back now to SportsCenter and Chris and John. Gentlemen.
All right, Gail and Bob Aaron, thank you very much. Avoid the errant jabs and hooks you might run into the next couple hours in Las Vegas, and we'll see you on The Late Show.
See you tonight.
All right. Plenty to come on this SportsCenter. We're moving on from fights on to other topics, including afternoon tennis highlights.
And on the links, the ladies played round 3 of the first 1987 major, the Nabisco Dinah Shore. And on the mound, Nuxie still going strong and hoping to be part of a pennant winner. All when we return. Stay with us.
SportsCenter is being brought to you by The Travelers, one of America's strongest, most experienced financial experts. By Olympus, makers of 35mm cameras, including the new OM77AF. And brought to you by Moet, France's best-loved champagne.
Pat Bradley is the defending champion at the Nabisco Dinah Shore Golf Classic in Rancho Mirage, California. She's also the co-leader after today's 3rd round, although she has plenty of company atop the leaderboard here. Sunday's finale should be a beauty. Rosie Jones birdies the 16th here to get to 1 over par. That's just 2 off the pace. The leader much of the day, Betsy King, with a chip shot here from downhill. Watch how close this one gets on 13. Sets up the easy par. King finished the day standing at -1. Now that ties her for the lead with one of the best rounds of the day, shot by defending champion Pat Bradley. Tee shot on 17, en route to a par here, and a 69 on the day. She's also at 1 under. And let us not forget the Australian beauty, Jan Stevenson here, saving par on 18. Not many out of the hunt. Jan's +1, 2 back of Bradley and King. So Pat Bradley and Betsy King are the leaders at 1 under par after today's 3rd round. Heading into tomorrow's 4th round, there are 5 others tied at 1 over and just 2 shots off the pace.
The men are across country, not only in a different time zone, but in a different weather zone altogether. The Greater Greensboro Open gave new meaning to the term golf fanatic, because you had to love golf to be out there in this weather. How cold was it? We're getting ready for like ski jumping here. Wind chill 21 degrees. Yeah, that looks like fun in the gallery today. Clarence Rose lost the lead when his 4th shot to the par 5 13th hole rolls well past the pin, leading to a bogey. We should say that they had to go backwards because of the delayed 2nd round. Leaders began in the back 9. Danny Edwards birdie on 13 to take the lead at 6 under. Then at 15, Danny with a nice-looking cap with a better-looking putt. 7 under par. He's 2 shots in the lead. But on the 16th, Edwards missed this par putt to drop a shot back. And then on 17, par putt also doesn't go. At that point, he was tied with Clarence Rose. And then Scott Simpson ended up the day when they finally finished. And they had to finish the 2nd round this morning. And they had a 30-minute snow delay. That's right, a snow delay. First time it snowed in over a decade on the Pro Tour. They finished the 2nd round, then played the 3rd round. Scott Simpson has the lead by 1 shot. He is 4 under par 212. Tom Byram is at 3 under par 213. Danny Edwards, Payne Stewart, Brian Clark, Gene Sowers, and Clarence Rose, all 3 shots off the pace. Final round here on ESPN tomorrow at 4 Eastern Time. Meanwhile, the seniors, they are down at Sarasota, Florida, the Chrysler Seniors, and today it was 2-team medal play. The international team against the United States. Gary Player puts his team into the early lead. Peter Thompson and Roberto DiVincenzo are a stroke down, but look at Thompson, a little English there with the birdie putt. You want to talk about body English? The best American chart today comes from Chichi Rodriguez in Miller Barber. Chichi walking. Right. Yeah, it's in there. Chichi on the 12th with the bird. Southpaw Bob Charles from New Zealand has had a great couple of months on the senior circuit. His shot on the par 3 13 gets the bounce out of the rough and kicks beautifully to within 5 feet. And meanwhile, other foreigners doing well. Bruce Crampton and Harold Henning move into a tie for the lead. Crampton with a birdie from the fridge on the 14th. And so it's very difficult to explain all of this, but let me suffice it to say that the winners today were Gary Player and Bob Charles, that team, and Bruce Crampton and Harold Henning, that team. They finished tied for first. When you add it up at the end of the day, with 3 days gone out of the 4 days, The international team leads the U.S. 46-20. They changed the format a little bit tomorrow, but it'll have to be a total collapse by the international team for the United States to win. It's hard to explain. Believe me, if I had a half hour, I'd be better at it.
The Greater Greensboro looks like the Mackenzie brothers play golf, the Canadian Open in April or something.
That's right. It's time to take off.
Take off. Still ahead here on the Sports Center. Spring training set to wrap up, and we'll feature a guy who's seen more than any active player.
We also will move to Chicago to run down today's play in the Volvo tennis tournament. Stay with us.
This week's Volvo tennis stop moved into the University of Chicago Pavilion in the second city. Today, the semifinals with the first of the pair presenting a scare for the number 3 seed. Had to come back to win this one from down 1 set. Elliot Telcher dominating the first set with Tim Mayotte. Telcher has won 4 games, serving in the 5th. Telcher comes to the net, puts it away, holds on to win 6-3. But back comes the number 3 seed, Mayotte. Telcher's service returns short. Telcher unable to get it back. To Mayotte's backhand, he puts it away. Sets tied at 5 apiece now. Now Mayotte serving to go ahead 6-5. Follows with the serve and volley, and then Telcher just sends it into the net for the unforced error. Mayotte wins the second set 7-5. Now in the third set, match point for Mayotte, and Mayotte with a strong backhand return. Telcher with a backhand volley. Mayotte reaches it, sends it cross court with the winner, and wins it 3-6. 7-5, 6-2 is the final. Tim Mayotte, the winner over Elliot Telcher. Now he'll face the winner of David Pate and Bill Scanlon. That match gets underway at 8 o'clock.
The women are one step ahead of the men this week. Today was finals day at the Women's Indoor Championships in picturesque Piscataway, New Jersey. And electing to receive early after winning the coin toss was Helena Sukova. She was playing this young lady, Lori McNeil, and Sukova uses the receiving choice to her advantage because immediately she would break Lori, come into the net. Nice get by McNeil, but the overhead by the 6-2 check enables her to break immediately. Now on serve, later on in the first set, Sukova at net again. Deposits that one. An 18-minute first set, 6-love. Helena Sukova wins the first set. McNeil spent much of the match talking to herself. She wasn't herself today. Sukova goes on to serve and wins it 6-love, 6-3.
This portion of SportsCenter, along with the latest tennis news, is brought to you by Moet, France's best-loved champagne.
As the 26 Major League Baseball teams break camps in Florida and Arizona, Cleveland's Phil Niekro does so for the 22nd time. And as Jim Gray tells us, much of the young Indians' hopes for success are riding Niekro's 47-year-old shoulders.
Phil Niekro continues to defy Father Time. In fact, to the lords of baseball, Niekro is Father Time. He's had a professional career which has spanned over 4 decades, as Niekro will be 48 years old before opening day.
Mentally, I'm as strong as I was. Physically, this spring I'm feeling better than I have in 15 years. So with those two and keep myself healthy, I feel as good as I have in a long time. That's good.
You can be 2 or 3 in the rotation or what?
As long as I'm in there.
That's right.
One amongst 5 is okay with me.
That's right. Good luck.
With each passing day, Niekro is having more fun. Here teasing our photographer into a panic and receiving the same treatment in return. He participates in all of the spring training drills, even though he knows he can do them in his sleep. Maybe he is slowing down just a little bit, at least in the eyes of one feller on the Indians.
But he's working hard. He doesn't run as hard as he used to, but neither do I, and neither does anybody else at that age.
I'm not breaking down, which I think a lot of people are expecting me to do every time I walk on the mound. But the only thing people look at is the age limit. That's it.
For more than 21 years, Niekro's knuckleball has been retiring batters, and while opposing players would just as soon see him in his rocking chair, Phil insists he's too young to be collecting Social Security.
1 day, 1 hour at a time. 1 week, 1 month, 1 year. I'm on 1-year contracts. You know, the guys that write the paychecks, they determine if you're going to play or not. Doesn't matter how bad I want to play or how great I feel. It's the guy who's going to write the paycheck is going to determine if I'm going to play baseball.
As long as Niekro continues to be effective, it's doubtful that those who sign his paycheck will run out of ink anytime soon. Jim Gray, ESPN, Tucson, Arizona.
Phil Niekro and the Indians open their season Monday afternoon at Exhibition Stadium in Toronto against the Blue Jays. We'll have live reports on that game. We'll also be in Cincinnati, Chris Berman covering the Reds and the Montreal Expos, and George Grand will be at Milwaukee County Stadium as the Brewers host the Boston Red Sox. Nice to get the opening day assignment.
Yes, baseball is back. Thank goodness.
Yes.
It's always good to see that start. Hopefully it won't snow at all these stadiums. We'll be back to wrap things up on this edition of the Sports Center in a moment.
The nation's best 3-year-olds are starting to rise to the top as the Kentucky Derby and the rest of the Triple Crown races approach. Today from Hellendale, California, or Florida rather, that's usually where they run the Florida Derby, is in Florida. Dave Johnson with the stretch call.
6 of them battle for command as they straighten away in the stretch. No more Flowers has the lead ahead. Here comes Crypto Clearance on the outside, and down the stretch they come. No more Flowers holding on. Crypto Clearance on the outside, Canada between horses. The favorite is fifth, but as they come to the wire, 3-horse race, it's Crypto Clearance on the outside by a nose with jockey Jose Santos in a beautiful ride.
Crypto Clearance, the winner, paid $7.40. No more Flowers next, and Telinum was the place horse. Now, also in the Santa Anita Derby, Temperate Sill was the winner as they head towards the Kentucky Derby and the rest of the Triple Crown.
It, of course, John, the final weekend of regular season action in the NHL before the Stanley Cup playoffs begin Wednesday. A classic 5:05 late matinee start this afternoon on the island. The only game going on right now in the NHL is now in the third period. Too late for Buffalo, but they lead the New York Islanders by the score of 4-3. Oh, by the way, Dennis Potvin playing had a goal for the Islanders, his 290th of his career, his 999th career point, which is awfully impressive. We have cheerleading competition coming up next. We're back on the Sports Center at 11:30. I'm Chris Berman.
I'm John Saunders. See you later tonight.
Sports Center has been brought to you by Mobil 1 Synthetic Motor Oil. Mobil 1 protects your engine better than any conventional motor oil. And by Bud Light, the light beer with the first name in taste. Everything else is just a light.